Hello there, BookTube. Well, I've had migraines a lot recently, so I have been very tired. I've been in a lot of pain, and I've not been in a position to really make any videos, which is a shame. I wanted to post up some videos recently, and I've just not had the ability. So, to commemorate the fact that I've gone a week without uploading anything, I thought, what the hell? Let's go ahead and burn some bridges, shall we? Because, you know, I'm the pariah of BookTube. I am persona non grata on most of BookTube, because most of BookTube are political pansies who can't handle dissent. But I do have a small community of friends on BookTube. People who actually do like me. People who can get past the fact that I am a huge dick. These are good people. There's not many of them. BookTube is filled with people who don't like me, and they make it very difficult to be friends with me because they will tar you with the same brush and make you also persona non grata. So, yeah. It's not a good idea for me to start picking fights with them, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I'm anything if not contrarian. So, I was watching a video by Hemvar. His channel is Liam's Lyceum. I tagged him in my recent tag. He's been a member of my Gilded and before that Discord community for a while. Quite a long-standing member actually. He's been there for years. So we know each other fairly well. Unfortunately, sometimes people post things that you just can't let slip. So, this is all meant in good nature. I am hoping that we can have this discussion without it creating an explosion and without people suddenly deciding to draw swords and take sides. Because Hemvar and I are still going to be friends after this. At least I will. I'm fairly sure he will. He hasn't heard what I've got to say yet. He thinks he will, but he hasn't heard what I've got to say yet. He might change his tune when he hears what I've got to say, because I'm not going to be pulling punches here. His video that he published today, Magic Systems Aren't Magic, by DJ Butler. Hard magic equals bad fantasy. Now, this video is an hour-long discussion. I have only watched the first 10 minutes. I haven't seen the rest, because the first 10 minutes was just bad enough that I felt the rage rising. I've got it on my TV, I have my remote here, and I'm going to watch and react to it. That also means future me is going to fucking hate me, because that means he's going to have to go in and edit this. And line up the footage. I'm going to have to find a ripping program to rip Hemvar's video. I'm then going to have to put that into my video. And I'm going to have to layer it. It's going to be a lot of editing. Future me already wants to smack me in the gob. But that's his problem. So, fuck him. Anyway. Let's start, shall we?
Great. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Hemvar, and today I have a special guest again. He's been on the channel before. This is Dave, or DJ Butler. I've been talking about fantasy essays, and today I wanted to talk about Magic Systems Aren't Magic, which is written by Dave.
So that's where we're starting. I will only be going over the first 10 minutes because that's going to take me the entire video. Then I will watch the rest and probably have an aneurysm at the other stuff that Dave says in this video. We'll see.
So I thought it'd be fun to have Dave on, and he was willing to come on. So thanks again, Dave, for coming on.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, it should be fun, I think. Compared to the other ones, this is rather short, and it is definitely different. Because let's see, is this? I think the subtitle is this: a few initial notes towards more authentic magic and fantasy novels and an invitation to read. Which, yeah,
I'm going to stop here and just say, Hemvar did a very good job of staying professional and cordial in this discussion. I wouldn't. I would have pissed DJ Butler off completely and he probably would have hung up on me. Because the things that DJ Butler says, he says with such conviction that it's hard to disagree with him. He makes it hard. He does things that I know I've done in the past, which is you go into a conversation with such conviction and such force of personality behind the things you're saying that everyone in the room feels compelled to agree with you, at least in part. No one will go, actually, no, I disagree, because you've already declared that anyone who has these opinions are fools and idiots. It makes it hostile to anyone who disagrees, and people who are not expecting to have that kind of hostile debate will be put on the back foot, and they will kind of roll into the middle. They will fall into a position where they kind of agree with you because agreeing with you is just easier to maintain the peace. Anyway, let's start this back up.
Right, so
the original subtitle was something like "Why Brandon Sanderson Has Destroyed Modern Fantasy Literature and What We Can Do to Fix It." But that was too pugnacious.
Of course.
The first statement there, why Brandon Sanderson has destroyed modern fantasy and what we can do to fix it. That is the biggest troll headline you can come up with. It's a good thing he changed it, because that would make it so that there is no way you could take him serious. That is the biggest load of shit cope I've ever heard. That is salt, if there ever was any. Brandon Sanderson is popular. Stop shitting on him just because you're jealous. I will say now, I've just watched through, we're about the 2.5 minute mark. I'm not going to play the full 10 minutes because there's little bits of banter backwards and forwards that are not important for my point. So I'm going to cut down the bits. I'm only going to be putting in the key bits I'm responding to this video. So just so that that's clear, the entire video, Hemvar's entire video, will be below in the description. So go check it out, give it a watch, see what you think. I say I've still only seen the first 10 minutes, so this video could get a lot better. He could, walk back some of these things later in the video. We don't know. We'll find out.
I just wanted to, I guess, to start off, I really like the way you open this up. I imagine this is probably where you got the idea to write this. It says, I'll just read it. It says, when I tell people that I write fantasy novels, more often than not, the next words I hear are, "What's your magic system?" And then you say, "This is a ridiculous question." And you expressed that this is kind of ridiculous a lot, actually, through it. But yeah. What are your thoughts, I guess, on that initial statement? Is that like, I mean, I love it. I love it as an opening, honestly. But
okay, first of all, it's not a ridiculous question. It's a perfectly normal question. It is common to have a magic system in a fantasy book, and whether you acknowledge that there's a magic system or not, what is your magic system is a normal thing for someone to ask if they find out that you're writing a fantasy book, assuming there's magic in your fantasy book. It's fine that you can find that provocative and that that's entertaining as an opening for the article. I agree, that is an entertaining opening, but it's also a stupid opening and shows that the person who wrote it is purposely taking shots at the fantasy genre because they don't like it and they want to be contrarian.
Yeah. I think fantasy literature in its heart, we can argue about this at the margins, but I think in its heart, fantasy literature is the what-if literature of the human spirit. And one of the things that makes it the what-if literature of the human spirit is its use and inclusion of magic, which is notoriously difficult, maybe impossible to define, but which clearly has to do with, which lies close to space that is intimate to the human soul, the unconscious mind, our social structures, our psychological reactions to provocation, our perception of others, faith, the idea of science, The idea of medicine, magic is somehow in a constellation with all those things.
Okay, so this is the first point with DJ Butler that I'm just going to disagree with. We can understand psychology. We can understand moral philosophy. There are many, many people who go out of their way to learn and study these things. The fact that you've decided that they are some wishy-washy thing that you would rather be ignorant of because it makes it feel more mystical in your mind is not a good enough reason for you to shit all over the very concept.
And I think that there are two grotesqueries that have been inflicted upon fantasy literature of the last 30 years. And I would like to see us get past them. We are still not past them, to my chagrin, though I've been in this for a decade now.
Okay, this is the important bit. He thinks there are two grotesqueries, which is a word he's made up, but we understand what it means. 2 points that are grotesque, that are disgusting, that have mutated and manipulated the fantasy genre and made it into something that is displeasing in many different ways. That's what he means. So these things are universally bad. These are terrible things. The way he's describing them, they are disgusting and reprehensible. That is what he's trying to get across. I just want to make that clear. Let's hear what his first one is.
One of them is grimdark. So
I will say, the nervous laughing from Hemvar in this is very clear that he was not expecting this to be quite so intense. And kudos to you, because you keep quite calm and don't pull him up on this shit. And this shit is terrible.
grimdark does make statements about the human spirit, but they are juvenile, stupid, sophomoric statements of the kind that you say when you are a 22-year-old in college and you're trying to prove how cool you are, and you want to sleep with somebody. Dude, there is no God. We're just meat. You're tough.
That reaction from Hemvar says everything. That was, oh shit, I like grimdark, and he's now going to take a dump all over it. Yes, he is going to take a dump all over it. And what you should have done is called him out and go, excuse me, I actually like this stuff. I think it's well written and well put together. There's nothing wrong with it. Stop taking a shit on it just because you're not Joe Abercrombie and you're not as popular as him. Because that's what this is. He'll keep taking a shit on every author that's not as popular than him. And given I had never heard of DJ Butler until this time, that's almost all of them. I'm not claiming to be some kind of literary genius here. I'm not claiming that I recognise every single author's name. But the fact is, I've been watching BookTube for a long time. I've been collecting books for a long time. I've been reading now for a few years. And I recognise most names that have any following at this point. Even the obscure ones. Anyway, let's carry on.
Grimdark does make statements about the human spirit, but they are juvenile, stupid, sophomoric statements of the kind that you say when you are a 22-year-old in college and you're trying to prove how cool you are, and you want to sleep with somebody. Dude, there is no God. We're just meat. You're tough. You can accept the hard truths. Now let's go. You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. Let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel, as they sang in a song in my youth. So, and that's just dumb. Those are not statements that are worthy of an adult.
So that's his first point. He believes that grimdark is juvenile and that it's try-hard. And sometimes it is. I don't disagree with the concept. Then he goes on to take it way too fucking far. It is not some meathead dude bro bullshit, and I don't appreciate the sentiment. Also, at what point does being an atheist come across as this try-hard dude bro nonsense to you? At what point is that immature? Let me guess, you have an imaginary friend that you think tells you what to do and has created the world for you. Yeah, this imaginary friend, he's human-shaped, obviously, despite the fact that he wasn't born on Earth. He presumably existed before the Earth was made. But he's still human in shape, because that makes fucking sense. And he created the Earth, and he created all these stupid rules for you to live by, and he's made sure that you're here on this planet. And he loves you, and he wants you to do certain things, and he's got these ridiculous laws on what you can do with your penis and shit like that. That's sensible. But having a grimdark view of society and putting that on paper, where you explore the ideas of loss, pain, grief, etc., and a rejection of mystical thinking like God, that's juvenile. No, it's not juvenile. It's pathetic that you put it that way. I'm sorry that your fucking imaginary friend is so distorted and distressed by my refusal to believe in him. You don't believe in fairies at the bottom of my garden, I presume. So, maybe we're even on that. But don't throw a genre under the bus just because the people who tend to read it tend to be atheists, and that bothers your theistic mindset. It's pathetic.
So, and that's just dumb. Those are not statements that are worthy of an adult. They're fundamentally childlike, childish.
Yeah, those are not statements that are worthy of an adult, right? So, any exploration of grief, anger, disillusionment with faith, they're not worthy of an adult. That's what he thinks. It's pathetic. Honestly, Hemvar, you're nodding along to this. Really? I am going to call you out on this. You're nodding along to it's not worthy of an adult to enjoy grimdark, to dispute God, or to have any kind of cynical view on the world. You don't believe cynicism is a mature response to some of the bullshit that happens on this planet, really? Because I don't believe you. I think you're lying because he's just pulled this out of his fucking arse, and you are genuinely not sure how to react. This is why I said I'm burning fucking bridges here, because me and Hemvar get along well, but honestly the fact that he's there smirking and nodding along pisses me off even more, because I know you don't agree with this nonsense. Or I fucking hope you don't.
They're fundamentally childlike, childish. So that's gross. That's just trying to tear down meaning, tear down beauty, tear down nobility. I look forward to finally sluicing that out of our collective unconscious for a while.
Okay, first of all, you won't sluice it from our collective unconscious. It's not going anywhere. These concepts have outlived you already. They are bigger than you. They have existed before you did, and they will exist long after you're dead. So, no. But second of all, it does not destroy beauty. Beauty is not contingent on us not having cynicism. We can acknowledge the bad in society. We can acknowledge pain and grief and anger, and we can acknowledge that God is a fictional entity that people invented because the concept of life being finite and there being no afterlife, no cosmic justice, is a genuinely terrifying concept that actually bothers people. It genuinely drives people crazy, because of course it does. That we only have one life, that this life is all we're ever going to get, that there's no cosmic justice, no balance of any kind, no one who actually gives a shit, that life has no inherent meaning or purpose behind it, there's no such thing as a true objective morality, there's no point to life, there's no purpose to anything, except what we define and what we put in place. That is a horrific thought, and people have invented God concepts for a long time to deal with it. And yes, the cynicism goes along with it. The cynicism is very much a part of that, because pain and grief and anger often inspire a need for cosmic justice. That's why we come up with things like a heaven and hell concept, or a karma concept, these mystical thinkings that have been replaced by science in the minds of rational people. What you see as the beauty and mystical nature of society, I see as your ignorance. Your ignorance gets dispelled by things like the grimdark genre, because grimdark doesn't care about preserving your wonder. It cares about presenting other emotions, and you're too stunted to accept those emotions. You don't have to like them, but by making out that you think that they're juvenile and that they're stupid is insulting to a vast number of people, and only goes to show that you are a stunted person with very, very limited ability to compare with the human condition. For an author, that's damning.
The other thing is hard magic systems, and the problem with hard magic systems is that they don't make any statement about the human spirit at all. In fact, what they do is they denature fantasy. They cause fantasy literature not to make statements about the human spirit.
How the fuck does hard magic do that? Hard magic does not do that. Right? The idea that hard magic stops the magic from saying anything about the human condition means that you think things that can be explained rationally cannot say anything about the human condition. That's what you're claiming. All a hard magic system is a system that's internally consistent with boundaries. Hard magic is necessary for a story to have stakes and for it to have a sense of realism. If you don't have a hard magic system, the magic can be used as a deus ex machina. You can just have it do whatever you want. You can have it be whatever it needs to be for the story to do whatever the story wants to do. And that's fine if you're doing absurdism. It's fine if you're doing pure wonderment. If you're trying to write something like Alice Adventures in Wonderland, then sure, go soft magic. The whole point of not knowing, the whole point of that book is not knowing what's coming next. There's no way to predict it. It is Wonderland. It is complete wonder, pure and simple. But this goes to fundamentally describe what DJ Butler thinks of the world. He thinks explaining the world ruins it. He thinks knowing how the world works and explaining the world makes the world less magical in his eyes. It makes it less impressive, less important. It destroys its beauty and it makes it more drab. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Science and discovery makes everything more beautiful. The fact that I understand how the concept of love works, the fact that I understand that if I fall in love with another person, that is not some mystical, undescribable phenomenon. It is in fact me meeting someone who has similar likes, dislikes, similar personality, a decent connection that is creating serotonin in my brain that's telling me spending time with this person is nice. This person is making you feel good. That releases other chemicals, other hormones into my brain in a specific quantity that causes me to feel a natural sense of belonging and connection to this person. By fostering that, you can make it stronger, because the more you use certain pathways in the brain, the more they grow and strengthen. Does the fact that I understand how love is processed in the brain make me love less? No, it doesn't. It just means that now I know how it works. How it works doesn't change how it feels. How it feels is still just as magical and just as important to me. It's still just as profound when I find someone who I love, and it's still just as heartbreaking when I grieve their loss. Just because I understand the biomechanics of death and that I don't believe that this unquantifiable idea of the spirit has left their body and has continued to exist in some far-off fairyland called the afterlife, just because I don't buy into that bullshit doesn't mean that I don't feel the loss. If anything, it means I feel the loss more, because I'm prepared to actually accept the very concept that they simply don't fucking exist anymore, and that pure sense of existential dread at the concept that that person now doesn't exist, will never exist again. They are gone forever. That is a genuinely damning thought. It is terrifying and disgusting to think on. And that is the reality of death. Now, that is something that you explore in something like grimdark, because that's what these genres are for. It's for exploring the very depths of the human soul. And the fact that you think understanding science, understanding the world around you, and by extension understanding the magic system in your fictional world, because that is what's replacing science in that world, is destroying the magic, destroying the essence of that world, destroying the beauty of that world, shows that you don't understand the true beauty of our fucking world in the first place, and you definitely don't understand what makes things beautiful. What makes things beautiful has nothing to do with your own ignorance. Being ignorant of something doesn't make it beautiful, it makes you stupid.
They turned fantasy literature purely into adventure stories. Genealogically, right? Genealogically,
Don't use that fucking word. You don't know what genealogically means.
we had like myth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And its intimate connection with, you know, liturgy, and from this we got fairy story, as we're kind of moving away from becoming a somewhat demythologized society, but we're still holding on to that stuff. And we have fairy tales, which is, you know, like it's myth in a watered down and a fading kind of form. And we got fantasy literature, which is a sort of faded down form, still kind of holding on to telling stories about magic and about monsters and heroes. And then that's turned into games.
So you think that myth is higher in the hierarchy than fairy tales, and fairy tales are higher in the hierarchy than fantasy literature. You think that's the way it works, and that somehow telling really simplistic and baseline stories of bland, two-dimensional heroes fighting bland two-dimensional monsters is somehow more telling of the human condition than something that is deep and enriching and buys into all of the literary traditions that have been built over hundreds and hundreds of years, that the myths of the likes of the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans haven't been improved on and built on over time. Of course they fucking have. What do you think literature has been? This is disgusting that you believe this. Do you believe that these tales are somehow better than fantasy literature now? They're not. They're not. They are provably, objectively worse. They are simplistic, they are trite, and they are fucking obvious in their message. That is what most mythology is. The reason mythology continues is that it's got a good baseline. Its baseline, its foundation, has merit. It has a lot of meaning behind it. So we take that and we build on it. And by building on it, we improve it. We give it more nuance and more detail and more flavour. It's got a texture to it that it wouldn't have otherwise. We've built upon these things to make them more complex. And that complexity speaks to the human condition. It speaks to it in many different ways. It talks about various different emotional states. At no point could you honestly say that the tragic life of Kaladin in The Way of Kings is less detailed and less constructed than something like a Greek tragedy. Greek tragedies are predictable and obvious in their construction, whereas The Way of Kings takes Kaladin and has him explore his depression, his suicidal thoughts, his tendency to place others above himself, and then his tendency to not believe in himself. Those are explored in a level of depth that you simply would not get in any other kind of story. You cannot have that in a fairy tale or in an old myth or legend. There isn't enough time, there isn't enough space. Those techniques hadn't been developed yet. What you're literally saying is that the art of literature has not moved forwards, and you are categorically, objectively fucking wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine, right? So, you know, Dungeons and Dragons or something like that lets people go out and let's come together on a Saturday night. We're going to create our own myths, and or we'll participate in retellings of our myth stories, in which I'm going to be the hero, and that's fine. But then those are too complex for some people, so then we got simplified games where the narrative was stripped out, like Magic the Gathering, okay, and hard magic is below that in the genealogy. Hard magic is, I want to take Magic the Gathering and I want to turn it back into stories.
Oh my fucking god. Right. Hard magic is not turning Magic the Gathering into stories. Hard magic is providing a fantasy world with a set of rules and restrictions to their magic system so that the reader understands the limitations. If you have a hard magic system and a soft magic system, the soft magic system can create abstract and wonderment. That's what it can do. That's all it can fucking do. Because if you've got a soft magic system, you can have the soft magic do anything it likes. You can just develop a new magical power on a whim, Deus Ex Machina your way out of every problem. There is no limitations, which also means there's no rise in tension. There's no stakes. There's no sense of limitation. And there's no ability for the reader to predict scenarios and problem solve as they read along. If you have a hard magic system and you have properly described and developed that magic system, you explain it in full, then people can read along, and as issues come along, they can already see how the magic system can be applied to those situations in order to solve the problems at hand. If you know the limitations of the magic system, it makes it more fulfilling because you can understand how that magic fits into the world. Knowing the limitations of the magic also allows that magic to work within the law. It allows the background and the civilizations within this world to become more realized, because if you don't have limitations on the magic, then you don't understand how magic's affecting society. You don't understand how it affects nation states, how it affects military, how it affects daily life. These things are all questions you need to ask. If you take the magic from Lord of the Rings, for example, and extrapolate it out, if we had that kind of magic in the hands of more than the half-dozen people on the entire planet who can cast it in Lord of the Rings, it would fundamentally change the entire story. That's the reason that there is a restriction in place, that it can only be cast by a very small number of people, because the magic in that system is not defined. And if you don't define it, you do not know how it impacts the rest of your world. You need to explain how your magic impacts the world, otherwise your world is a cartoon cutout. It doesn't make sense. The real world has a magic system. It's called science, and we need to understand it in depth in order to be able to work out what it's capable of doing. And it's capable of doing some incredible fucking things, including making worldwide telecommunications possible. That means I can tell you that you're an arrogant, pedantic prick over the internet, like I'm doing right now, that you're condescending and you're undermining the entire genre you're apparently writing in by taking a giant piss all over the literary building blocks that have been put in place to make fantasy more complex, more interesting, more nuanced, and better defined. What you are doing is gatekeeping. It is extreme gatekeeping. You are deciding that you don't like science, technology, and understanding the world around you. You probably have a very religious-looking outlook on the world. And because of that, you expect fantasy to have the same outlook. You want fantasy to mirror religious dogma and religious thinking. Well, it doesn't anymore, because the people writing it want it to actually be consistent. And there's nothing less consistent than fucking religion.
Okay, and so you've processed out the magic, and now what you have instead is, ooh, if I touch the color blue, I can fly. If I touch the color yellow, then I can heal people or whatever. It's ridiculous.
You think that's hard magic? You think I can touch the colour blue, I can fly, I can touch the colour yellow, I can heal, is not soft magic? That's extremely fucking soft. No one's explained how any of that works. And if they actually did have such a stupid magic system, that would fundamentally change the entire world. Think about it. The entire world would be made out of yellow shit, because suddenly you'd be healing everywhere and everyone at all times. Right? You can't just say this stupid shit. This is a straw man and you fucking well know it.
Whatever. It's ridiculous. Now, there are things that are that push in the direction of comprehensive magical systems, but they're not that simple. That's a kind of so that's a different perversion, right? We've taken all the magic out of the literature that was supposed to be about magic, and so much so I think a lot of young readers just don't even have a sense. And the question, what's your magic system, seems natural when it's actually insane, because a magic system simply isn't magic.
Okay. If it does not exist in nature, it is magic. That is the definition of magic. Magic is something that doesn't exist in reality. So yes, you can have a magic system that is internally consistent and has rules and restrictions, and it's still magic. What you're saying is you want your magic to be so ill-defined that it can do whatever you want, whenever you want, without restrictions. Basically, you're a lazy git when it comes to writing. You can't be asked to restrict your magic, you can't be asked to actually make it consistent. You want to just go, it's magic, and write it off. That is the laziest way you can write fantasy. It makes the fantasy boring, it removes all sense of tension, it removes all stakes from the narrative. What you are saying is that you don't like the fantasy grew up. I'm sorry, it grew up. Maybe you should try and follow it. Right, I'm at 9 minutes and 15 seconds, and I'm just going to stop there, because I've already said enough. I think that this man is patronising and offensive. The things he says are disgusting. He hates the fantasy genre. He hates the fundamentals of the fantasy genre. He is openly dismissive and patronising towards the idea of atheism. So much so that I don't even think he realises he is. He treats literature like it's theology. And he is openly anti-science. And I can tell all of this from the first 9 minutes. I don't even need to watch the rest, and I can already tell that that's the way this man thinks. Honestly, Hemvar, the fact that you were able to stay relatively quiet and just kind of laugh along with this guy is a testament to how calm you can stay, because look at how calm I wasn't. Now, I'm happy for people to disagree with me. I feel very strongly on this. The difference is, I'm not going to talk along and expect you to sit there and smile and laugh. I'm going to be happy for you to disagree. And yes, I am very aware that my audience is very conservative at this point, largely because they're the only people who tend to watch. Everyone else is put off by the fact that I've been basically blackballed from BookTube. So it's very conservative. It's also very Christian. And I am aware that my descriptions of religion are likely quite offensive to you. So to all the Christians who are currently watching, and I know you're out there, I know I have plenty of Christians who listen to me, I want to say this very, very simply. I do not respect your beliefs. I can respect you as a person without respecting your beliefs. That is just reality. I could lie and tell you that I do respect your beliefs, and I could make out as if this is an acceptable position for us to be in. That, oh no, I have to respect your beliefs because that's your faith and that's important to you. No, bullshit. I respect you too much as a person to lie to you. I don't respect your beliefs. They're fucking stupid. Your imaginary friend did not create the world. There is no such thing as sin. There's no such thing as the afterlife. Absolutely nothing you believe has any backing in science or rationale at all. You have no evidence or logic to back up any of your religious claims. All of it is horse shit. I am happy to debate this with anyone at any time. God does not exist. He is an imaginary friend created because the idea that you won't exist anymore after death and that people will not see a cosmic reward for good deeds and cosmic punishment for being evil cunts, that is a difficult thing to swallow, but that is reality. That's why God exists, created by people to fill a gap in what they believe to be an unfair and uncaring universe. That's the truth. It's a hard truth to take. I know that will annoy people. I expect to lose subscribers from this. But you know what? I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say exactly what I think and what I feel. And if people don't want to follow me, if people don't want to listen to me after that, that's up to them. But I will not lie and pretend to be someone I'm not. I am an atheist. I am outright anti-theistic. I believe that religion is dangerous and is dangerous and is active delusions. And I see no reason to be any more respectful of religious faith than I would someone who genuinely believes they own a pet dragon. And this man, DJ Butler, is very clearly trying to look at fantasy through the lens of his religious mind. Very obviously so. Stands out by a mile. It's insulting, it's patronising, and if you're going to be insulting and patronising, at the very least have the good grace to be correct. And you're not. I will watch the other 40 plus minutes of that video at a later time. That first 10 minutes was exhausting. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully that was entertaining, interesting, or at least provocative enough that it got you thinking. Hopefully I haven't pissed off too many people. and I sincerely hope that Hemvar is not wanting me dead right now. I'll make sure to look over my shoulder in case he hires a hitman. I still do want to maintain a friendship here. But yeah, DJ Butler I found offensive, deeply offensive. The way he describes fantasy literature is disgusting, and yeah, I couldn't stay quiet on it. So that's me done, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.